Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Week 10 NFL DraftKings First Look lineup. I want to get to work with you before we begin. Down below in the description section, teamriseorfall.com right here, okay? Here's what we offer. Then, along with that, you get a monthly $20 credit to fantasycruncher.com. That's right. That applies to your current membership if you have one over there as well. Now, if you want these free lineup building videos, I have 8 to 12 planned to do weekly going forward, but I need to see that we can expand from our Twitch streams to YouTube videos. And I need to see the YouTube community come forward and support us. And then I'll invest my time for the company into YouTube. Full transparency in all things has always been what I have led with over the years. And as this company goes forward, I want that to continue down this route as well. So please, I need people to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, hit that like button to show your support, drop a comment down below. Those things are all incredibly helpful if you want these free videos to continue and if you want more of them. Now, one player that jumps off the map to me and one stack that jumps off the map to me on DraftKings heading into Week 10, it's the Nick Mullins stack. In a game that starts off with a 53.5 point total over-under at the open, the Saints are currently 6.5 point favorites, of course, off the back of that massive Sunday Night Football win against the dusty Tom Brady. And Nick Mullins here, he's just cheap, and so are his pass targets. And I go look at this game itself, and I go look at the pass-catching options here. They're cheap. They're way too cheap. You know, Kendrick Bourne at 4.4K racked up 10 targets in his last start. Way too cheap. We've got Brandon here. He had 10 targets as well, had himself a game. Richie James at 4K went bonkers. Had 13 targets, 184 yards, and a touchdown. We still have, Kittle is on IR. Jordan Reed will get another start here at 3.5K. I just wanted to highlight, I'm not saying to use them all. That's a terrible, terrible idea. But I do like the idea of doing like a three-person Niners stack. As we've seen Shanahan completely trust Mullins and let him throw the ball 35 plus time multiple times, and 36 against the Giants, 35 here against the Packers, and he's going to have to throw the ball a ton in this game as well. I would not doubt that we're going to continue to see him pepper his wide receivers with targets. Who do you want to go with? I don't know. For me, it's probably Ayuk, and everyone makes fun of me for pronouncing his name, but Brandon Ayuk and Kendrick Bourne. Those are probably my options. I think the Richie James play is, I don't know if you can bank on that happening again. So I'm intrigued to see what happens here. Ayuk did not play in Week 9. So listen, if we have Ayuk coming back this week, I think that's where the targets are going. I think Kendrick Bourne starts in the outside. Richie James will rotationally get in there, and he'll likely have 65-70% of the snaps, as well as the 49ers like to run 3 wide receiver sets. So James will get his snaps, and he's still 4K, but I want to leave that wide receiver spot open to run back Michael Thomas. I think a lot of people probably are like, yeah, Emmanuel Sanders, I'm going to plug him in. Look good that first game back. Traquan Smith scored a touchdown. But listen, the target's going to be low. I think if this game ends up being a shootout, it's Michael Thomas is going to benefit. He's going to be the guy who's going to get 10-plus targets. We've not seen that yet. You got to think 2 weeks removed now from being activated from the injury list. He's going to get peppered if this game ends up being a shootout. So I'm looking for massive upside here. It's going to look something like this for my starting DK paydown stack. You could probably even trot out Alvin Kamara in pass catching options. Now, if you're not paying down on DraftKings this week, I do not blame you. There are a plethora of stackable options here. Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and a potentially very lucrative fancy point perspective here type. Now, listen, if you're not paying down for Nick Mullins and the Saints stack, you have multiple spots here where there's some potentially lucrative spots for fantasy. And one of them is Jared Goff at 6.5K against Seattle, who was heading into Week 9, giving up 358 yards per game through the air. I can see that through the NFL Study Hub on teamriseorfall.com. This defense is absolutely brutal. And when I slide over to the game flow tab, I can sort this by passing yards per game. And the Seattle had the worst pass defense in the NFL, 358.7 yards per game through the air. And this was before Josh Allen, the GOAT, shredded them for over 400 yards passing. So if we now have Jared Goff in a spot where he can, potentially throw for, listen, the average is 358, and that was heading into this way. So I'm thinking the average is probably around 372 now after Josh Allen. If that's the average, my friends, what is Jared Goff going to do here? I would imagine that he's going to potentially light them up, as this is a funnel defense. No one runs on Seattle because they're so easy to pass against. I don't mind the Josh Reynolds pay down option. I want the touchdown equity in Robert Woods. Sure, there's Cooper Kupp here. He had 20 redonkulous targets this past week. You're not going to see that very often. Reynolds, Woods, I'm stacking them with Jared Goff. And yeah, I'm paying up for DK Metcalf. This kid is exploding. He has had 93 or more yards receiving in all but one game this year. That was against Arizona. He has scored touchdowns in 6 of 8 games, 8 touchdowns on the year, a massive floor, massive ceiling. Yes, Tyler Lockett, potentially even the higher owned player because of the price point. So I'm paying up. There it is. That's my preferred pay up option this week. You're going to need to get a little interesting here at the other positions, though, if you want to make this work. And here is where I think that I do pay down for Jordan Reed. And then you could go over to defense, and there's a few defensive options who you could potentially play. Listen, if Baker Mayfield does not start this week, is it going to be Case Keenum starting? Okay, you maybe have the Texans here at defense. I think you could play the Vegas Raiders against Drew Lock, the Giants against Philly, who are giving up a lot of sacks, a lot of options. Chargers defense against Tagovailoa. Okay, there you go. Now all of a sudden you've got 6.5K. You have some options to pay down for if you pay up for your stacks. And here we go again. Speaking of Drew Lock, listen, he looked horrendous doing it, but I think we're going to see a lot of games like this. This is just the offense. They can't run the football. Vegas is scoring some points here. I think 40-plus passing attempts likely inbound again for Drew Lock. And with Jerry Jeudy returning to this offense, we've seen him look all right the last couple of weeks, and he's racked up 10 and 14 targets, and he's just 5.6K. We saw Noah Fant leave the game briefly, but I think I'm going on the opposite side. Darren Waller. You're going to get a lot of pass catching opportunities. Targets are always abundant here for Las Vegas. You have a nice 3-player game stack. You want to keep it cheap. You don't need to go up from here if you don't want to do a larger stack. Tim Patrick, probably the other guy I would add. We saw him rack up 9 targets this past week. He has been pretty much the number 1 wide receiver of this year, even with Jeudy there, but we're starting to see the reins turn over to Tim Patrick. Listen, KJ Hamler continues to make plays as well. Had 10 targets this past week, racked up 6 receptions for 75 yards. They even gave him a carry. There's a lot of different options you could plug in here, but I'm going to keep it simple. 3-player game stack. When you do this, you're likely doing this for a smaller tournament. At this point, you need to fill out your roster for completely focusing on your upside, because you have a very volatile 3-player stack, and this is more of a value stack type approach. So I'm looking for upside. Where's my upside on the rest of this slate? Tight end is a barren wasteland this week. I think it's probably going to be a play like Dallas Goedert, and you're hoping for, 10 targets or something wild here where he's going to get peppered. I think there's a bounce back opportunity here. We know that Goddard has massive upside as the tight end 1 on this offense. And I think we're going to get that with Ertz on IR. So plug in Goddard. You're hoping for a lot of upside. I think it'll be lower owned as game log watchers are afraid of the spot. I will not be afraid. I'm going to capitalize here. I like the Packers. Interesting spot here against Jake Luton here. They're a 13.5-point favorite. Steelers 10.5-point favorites at home. Either defense, a fine option. I think that the Steelers let us all down there in a smash spot. They're very expensive. Packers, I do not mind here. Again, they're very volatile though. So if you don't want to pay up for those types of plays, who is the play? For me, it's the Chargers against the rookie. And I'm going to be paying right there, 2.8K. It allows me to pay up for the rest of the positions. I can go ahead and put together some high upside plays. Kareem Hunt against the second worst rush defense in the NFL. I can plug in Kareem Hunt, hope for some yardage. We saw Chase Edmonds rack up 28 touches. If Chase Edmonds gets 28 touches against the Buffalo Bills, I think there's a fine opportunity for him to score some serious points in this game. Sliding over to wide receiver, now I'm thinking upside and upside only. What do I want to do here? here. Who am I looking at? Davante Adams first and foremost. Yes, I'm plugging in Davante Adams. I'm hoping for continuation of this. We have just seen a massive ceiling and floor combinations. 3 games in a row, 47, 30, 36, and it's not like he hasn't done that before. Scored 44 at the Open. Listen, the interesting spot here too is this is where he got hurt, right? So if we are looking at his games this year where he has played beginning to end, we have seen 44, a 12-point stinker, but he did have 10 targets, 47, 30, 36. So 4 out of the 5 games he's begun and finished, he has scored more than 30 fantasy points. That is mind-boggling. So listen, plug him in, don't sweat it, and I think you have an opportunity here to finish your lineup here at 4K. Plenty of wide receivers. We've already talked about a few, and is it Richie James as that wide receiver 3 this week? Randall Cobb, a 54.5 point over-under there in Houston. We've seen him have a couple decent games here over the last several weeks. He's been 10 or more in 5 of the 7 games this year. Is that going to continue? I don't know. That's an interesting spot, I suppose. Alshon Jeffrey, if he returns, is interesting to me as well. Laviska Shenault, if he plays, is going to get peppered. I don't know. He got bounced from this game. I don't think he's the play there. There's many options here. You can pay down for a few of these guys. If he's out, I think Keelan Cole potentially racks up some more targets. David Moore, we saw score another touchdown. Gabriel Davis getting some wide receiver 3 snaps, 5 targets this past week, and had a touchdown. Whomever the play is for you, finish this lineup out. Feel good about it. For me, it's probably going to be a play like Randall Cobb or Richie James. Might as well go some upside. There you go. Finish out your lineup. Listen, I hope this brief introduction, it's a Monday morning video for week 10. I just want to get the juices flowing. I wanted to kind of show you some of the stuff we have. We have a lot of goodies over here. This is the NFL tab. This is all of the NFL stuff. Player polls for single entry, cash games, MME from CG, tiered rankings, notes, building block lineups where we give you 6 or 7 of the spots and you fill out the lineup with the player pool. Market share stacks, FanDuel and Draftkings top stacks where we have an entire list of our top stacks based on our projections. Of course, this study hub that you were just looking at with everything on there, there's so much stuff here we have for you. I mean, you can make a lineup just using this alone where our projections show you who to use. And listen, it's $29, my friends. The subscribe button, teamriseorfall.com/subscribe right here. Super cheap, my friends. Very, very cheap for you guys to use. And you get a whole lot of stuff here for a lot of different sports. And, of course, Discord. And, by the way, YouTube, if you hit that join button down below, there's a join button, you get access to our Discord where we do all of our coaching. There's a massive DFS and fantasy football community where people get together, talk sports. There are about 20,000 messages every couple of weeks, which means 10,000 messages per week happen in our Discord. It's very active, a little under 1,000 members in there. So Twitch and YouTube people are signing up left and right. All of our members on our website have access to it. So between Twitch, YouTube, and the website itself, teamriseorfall.com, there are about 980 people are subscribed across these 3 platforms and in Discord, talking sports, talking DFS, talking fantasy football, and you get access to it. Hit that like button down below for YouTube. Hit that join button and get access to it. I'm excited, and I'll see you on the inside, my friends. Together, we rise, baby.